Welcome back. So I'm still with the national bestseller Salvation, Black People in Love, written by Bell Hooks. And I'm in the chapter We Were the Mask. And if you remember, that's a Lawrence Dunbar poem. And we have a video of Lawrence Dunbar. So it's nice to have that little connectivity, that we're weaving this fabric of togetherness, of the beauty of togetherness in blackness. But let me jump in and not ramble off. No lesson imprinted on the consciousness of most black people was as detrimental to black family life as the unequivocal belief that domination and subordination was a natural order, that the strong should rule over the weak, and that the more powerful should rule over the powerless by any means necessary. Such thinking justified domestic violence. Men who believed, as most of them did, that women were the weaker sex, put on this earth to serve and obey the stronger sex, often used physical assault to subordinate their female partners. In his chapter Enduring, Leon Litwack documents that domestic violence was common. Quote, much like their white counterparts, black males might lash out at women for no reason other than to exercise a male prerogative and to subdue independent spirits, end quote. Drawing on the life stories of well-known black figures such as Benjamin Mays, Zora Neale Hurston, and Louis Armstrong, who all witnessed their mothers and stepmothers being repeatedly beaten by the men in their lives, Litwack reports that there were many black couples who were able to sustain lasting marriages, not without, quote, employing various strategies to balance the demands of labor and family. Concern with material survival often precluded a focus on love in black families. Care and affection were often reserved for the very young. Toni Morrison offers a fictional account of a dialogue between mother and daughter in her novel Sula that reveals how notions of love differed among generations. Quote, the second strange thing was Hannah's coming into her mother's room with an empty bowl and a peck of Kentucky Wonders and saying, Mama, did you ever love us? A silence follows these words. Then the dialogue continues, quote, I mean, did you, when we were little? The mother, Eva, responds initially by saying, no, I don't reckon I did. Not the way you thinking. Enraged, Eva goes on, you sitting here with your healthy ass self and ask me, did I love you? Particularly annoyed by Hannah asking if she was ever playful with them, Eva proceeds to talk about struggling for survival. Quote, no time. There wasn't no time. Not none. Soon as I got one day done here, come a night. With you all coughing and watching so TB wouldn't take you off. As if you were sleeping quiet, I thought, oh Lord, they dead. And put my hand over your mouth to feel if the breath was coming. What you talking about? Did I love you, girl? I stayed alive for you. Can't you get that through your thick head? Though fiction, the sentiments about love voiced in this passage echo the autobiographical comments Lorraine Hansberry made about her family when she described them as concerned only with material survival. Masses of black people suffered extreme material lack before the civil rights struggle altered the nature of the job market. It makes perfect sense that generations of black folks learned to see caring for someone's material well-being as a primary gesture of love. And I can say I see that. Growing up in the 50s, I remember hearing grown folks talk about relationships in terms of whether or not a man provided for the women and children in his life. Though our father was a stern, demanding, and punishing patriarch, when we were growing up, Mama always praised him for providing for us. I can remember having a conversation with her in the early 70s about the nature of love, like the fictional dialogue between Hannah and Eva Peace, a grown-up woman trying to understand, quote, this thing called love, end quote. I was taking a critical look at my relationship with my father. I told Mama I did not feel Daddy loved me. And she told me, quote, of course he loves you. He's taken care of all your needs all these years, end quote. Tears overwhelmed my words as I tried to explain to her that love was more than meeting someone's material needs, that it was about respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility. I was a graduate student then, reading philosophy and studying psychology. I knew there was more to loving than caring for material needs. At the same time, I knew that working hard and sacrificing to meet material needs to provide for one's family and kin was a powerful gesture of care that could not be dismissed as having no value. Too many black children I knew did not have a father who worked hard and brought home the money that would be used not just for necessary food, but for special treats. Our father worked hard to provide for 7 children. Growing up as an only child with no father present, he had always had to work. His mother was stern and not very affectionate, yet they were deeply attached to each other. When she was dying, it was Mama who gave her tender, loving care, washing her sick body, waiting on her hand and foot, and Daddy who provided. Providing really is not enough, even though it is crucial. Without a doubt, in Black life across classes, we tend to place too much importance on material well-being, neglecting our emotional development. In his memoir, Colored People, the famous Black scholar Henry Louis Gates shares a revealing story about material longing. When he was growing up, his mother longed to buy a house. He recalls, quote, Mama came to believe early on that the key to wealth and comfort in America was owning property. She wanted a nice house for the same reason she liked nice things, end quote. And in so many other places in the United States, white people made it difficult, if not downright impossible, for Black folks to buy property in Gates' hometown. When the 60s came, he and his father combined their financial resources and purchased the house owned by a white woman his mother had once worked for. Yet she was reluctant to move into the house. Explaining her reluctance, she stated, quote, Mrs. Thomas, used to make me sit out in the kitchen at a little wooden table and eat the scraps. She was a mean woman. She treated me bad. The thought of moving into this house, I wanted to burn this house down, end quote. Here's a case where the pain of remembered trauma could not be assuaged by a material gift, no matter how longed for. Yet when we read the autobiographies and biographies of African Americans, we often hear similar stories where material status is offered as a balm to wounded spirits. When we identify respect coming from a root word to mean look at as one of the dimensions of love, then it becomes clear that looking at ourselves and others means seeing the depth of who we are. Looking into the depths, we often come face to face with emotional trauma and woundedness. Throughout our history, African Americans have poured energy into the struggle to achieve material well-being and status, in part to deny the impact of emotional woundedness. Truthfully, it is easier to acquire material comforts than to acquire love. When I interviewed the black rapper Ice Cube a few years ago and inquired how he coped with emotional pain, he responded by saying, quote, "stuffs down the pain." Repression often turns pain into rage. For black men of all ages, it is more acceptable to express rage than to give voice to emotional needs. Talking recently with a popular young female rapper, Little Kim, I asked about love in her life and she responded, "Love? What's that? I have not known any love." Abandoned by parents who physically abused her, she had no way to understand love. But she did understand material survival by any means necessary. Her attitudes about love were cynical. Her focus in life was on attaining more money and fame. Listening to her, I realized that it was easier for a talented individual to move from rags to riches in our society than it is for them to know love. We use the satisfaction of material longing to deny the need to love and to be loved. Older black women entertainers, folks like Ella Baker and Etta James, reveal in their life stories how the search for love was often intermingled with the lust for fame and material luxury. It is no accident that the biography of Etta James is titled Rage to Survive. Emotionally abandoned by her mother at an early age, James found solace in her adopted kin. Dorothy, her mother, was a dashing, glamorous woman. James recalls, quote, "I wanted to be a part of Dorothy's taste and style, but I wasn't. I couldn't count on her. She never had a word of praise. Praise wasn't part of Dorothy's makeup. She looked on me like a nuisance. Yet every time she'd round my little heart, she would round, my little heart would start to flutter. Every time she was around, my little heart would start to flutter." Raised by her adopted kin, Mama Lou, Etta James was given love. Describing their relationship, she writes, "Mama Lou was strong in spirit but weak in body. She gave me all the loving encouragement I needed. She was my lifeline. She was the only adult who tried to understand me. She was one of those older ladies who could put herself in the place of a little girl. I felt her compassion. When this loving mother figure died while Etta was still a girl, she once again suffered the trauma of abandonment. Every black person knows individuals in the communities of their upbringing who were abandoned by biological mothers and fathers and raised by caring kin, usually by grandparents. Often caring kin do not give to their adopted children necessary emotional care. Even though they provide shelter and meet material needs, sustained loving care is needed to help heal the pain of emotional abandonment. Throughout our history in this nation, black people have tried to deny this pain, to act as though it does not affect our capacity to trust. Without trust, there can be no genuine intimacy and love. Yet for those among us who have been abandoned, it is difficult, if not impossible, to trust. To move toward love, we must confront the pain of abandonment and loss. This means speaking what may have once been unspeakable. So many black folks are grateful to the families and kin who raised them that it is difficult to be in any way critical of these environments. We know so well that often folks did the best they could given difficult and often harsh circumstances. However, to regain emotional well-being, we have to be able to see the bad that emerged in these settings as well as the good. As long as black folks normalize loss and abandonment, acting as though it is an easy feat to everyone, the psychological wounds this pain inflicts will not lay the necessary groundwork for emotional well-being that makes love possible. That was a lot. So let me summarize. What she's saying is that we're brought up by people. Sometimes we experience abandonment and loss and we repress it. We do not really call it out for the trauma that it is. We normalize it because we think people were doing the best they could with what they had. And that can be true. Two things can be true at the same time, that it is trauma and that they were doing the best that they could and that we need to heal from it. So tell me what you think. Thanks so much for listening.